All right, so now let's go for some reality here, folks. A little bit of reality has sunk in with some people. So here's Jamie Raskin reporting on MSNBC that there are conversations at the DNC about how to move forward here after this debate debacle.
There was a big problem with Joe Biden's debate performance, and there's also just a tremendous reservoir of affection and love for Joe Biden in our party. And so this makes it a difficult situation for everybody, but there are very honest and serious and rigorous conversations taking place at every level of our party because it is a political party and we have differences of point of view. I mean, if you compare that to the non-existent dialogue and conversation that took place in the Republican Party after Donald Trump's criminal conviction on 34 counts, it's remarkable.
You guys are in much better shape than they are, for sure. Thank God. Thank God. But to sort of corroborate what he's saying a bit here, it's a mess. Biden turns to family on his path forward after his disastrous debate. Democratic leaders have stood by the president as he faces questions about his ability to defeat Trump in November, but privately, many are expressing concern. President Joe Biden is expected to discuss the future of his reelection campaign with family at Camp David on Sunday, following a nationally televised debate Thursday that left many fellow Democrats worried about his ability to beat former President Donald Trump in November, according to 5 people familiar with the matter. Biden's trip was planned before Thursday's debate. He and First Lady Jill Biden are scheduled to join their children and grandchildren there late Saturday. So far, the party's top leaders have offered public support for Biden, including tweets posted by former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Senior congressional Democrats, including Hakeem Jeffries of New York, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, and Nancy Pelosi of California, have privately expressed concerns about his viability, said 2 sources apprised of those discussions, even as they all publicly back the president. That's a lot of brass swinging around saying we don't know if he can do it. Those are very, very, I can't think of 5 more senior people in the party. Obama, Bill Clinton, Hakeem Jeffries, James Clyburn, Nancy Pelosi. Those are the top 5. I mean, who in the party carries more weight than them? One Democratic House member who believes Biden should drop out of the
Epstein,
race.
but he's dead now.
Yeah, right, exactly. But has yet to call for that publicly, told NBC that 3 colleagues expressed the same sentiment to him during votes on the House floor Friday. House leaders have not wavered publicly, and their aides denied that they are expressing doubts behind closed doors. Speaker Pelosi has full confidence in President Biden and looks forward to attending his inauguration on January 20th, 2025, Ian Krager, a spokesperson for the former House Speaker, said. Any suggestion that she is engaged in a different course of action is simply not true. Well, who do we believe now? See, this is the other thing. Now you're going to try and spin it like these reports are false. You guys were just exposed as being abject fucking liars. That debate not only exposed Joe Biden, it exposed everyone around Joe Biden, including in the media, including his Democratic allies in the House and the Senate, his cabinet members, his press team, everybody. So now when something like this comes, well, who do you believe? Who do you believe? Do I believe Nancy Pelosi has no understanding of politics at all? Do I believe Hakeem Jeffries has no understanding, James Clyburn? Do I believe all these people are just dumb? Yeah. Or do we believe that they're saying something behind closed doors that they aren't saying in public, which has been the MO of the Democratic Party for well over a decade now?
Well, because they're hedging, because we can only hypothesize, but assuming, hey, we might have to run this guy.
Right.
So we can't publicly say anything indicating that we don't back him to the hilt. Because there's a good chance he tells us all to go fuck ourselves and just drives us all into a ditch.
Christy Stevenson, a spokesperson for Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, said her boss has repeatedly made clear publicly and privately that he supports President Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket from top to bottom. Brianna Frias said that Clyburn, who is traveling to Wisconsin this weekend to campaign for the president, has total confidence in President Joe Biden and the Biden-Harris ticket. Any reports alleging that the congressman has expressed anything other than firm support of President Biden are completely untrue, Frias said. At the same time, there is an understanding among top Democrats that Biden should be given space to determine next steps. They believe only the president is, in consultation with his family, can decide whether to move forward or to end his campaign early, and that he won't respond well to being pushed. The decision makers are two people. It's the president and his wife, one of the sources familiar with the discussion said, adding anyone who doesn't understand how deeply personal and familial this decision will be isn't knowledgeable about the situation. This account of a president and his party in crisis just a little more than 4 months before an election they say will determine the fate of democracy is drawn from interviews with more than a dozen Democratic officials, operatives, aides, and donors. All of them spoke on the condition of anonymity in order to describe matters as sensitive as whether a sitting president might give up his reelection bid and how he could be replaced on the ballot. So like Russell said, they're hedging. They don't want to come out on the record now in case a decision is made opposite what they want. Despite delivering a rousing speech at a rally in North Carolina on Friday that calmed some of his allies, yeah, right, Biden was described by one person familiar with his mood as humiliated, devoid of confidence, and painfully aware that the physical images of him at the debate, eyes staring into the distance, mouth agape, will live beyond his presidency, along with a performance that at times was meandering, incoherent, and difficult to hear. It's a mess, this person said. Sources have described 3 buckets of Democrats: those who will defend Biden under any circumstances, those who are ready to dump him, and those who are waiting to see what he does and what his poll numbers look like in the coming days and weeks before passing judgment. It's the 3rd bucket that Democratic insiders are monitoring closely. Democrats need to take a big breath and look at that polling. Look at swing voters, said one state Democratic Party chair. Until I see something differently, he's the person that's put this coalition together. He's the person that has the record. He's the person that beat Donald Trump. Until I see something differently, he's the best person to beat Donald Trump. Again, you beat Donald Trump in a year where you didn't have to campaign. I mean, you beat Donald Trump in this fluke year where there were no events, there were no rallies, there were no even real conventions. Like, even that race he'd have lost in a landslide if he actually had to run it. The Biden campaign declined to comment for this piece, instead pointing to a memo Saturday from campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon that made the case that Biden can still win, pointing to the more than $27 million they raised between debate day and Friday evening. Oh, man, I wish we could.
Yeah,
I wish we could do a podcast for those
that
people. We'd get a lot of Patreon money out of them.
That money is, that's why fucking Pod Save America's making that Pod Save America money,
exactly,
man. They got in with these people.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, you raised $27 million because with the racket you guys run, even when you've got a losing corpse of a candidate, it's the mob, man. They're giving in their envelope so that they can continue to get favors and protection from the fucking protection racket you run. Regardless of whether this guy's a good or a bad candidate, it's their envelope. They got to give you their envelope.
You were here for me when I needed you, right?
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of
it.
thing.
That's it. Well, and for the future.
And for the future.
For the future, yeah.
No, but I'm saying writing a check in this time of need, hey, it goes a long way. You're a good kid.
You're kicking up to the bus.
Exactly. Last slide. Notably, however, O'Malley Dillon nodded to the possibility that there might be some tough polling ahead, but said the blame will rest with the media. If we do see changes in polling in the coming weeks, it will not be the first time that overblown media narratives have driven temporary dips in the polls.
He's been losing to Trump all fucking year. And now I can only imagine what these polls are going to look like. These are going to be polls you haven't seen since fucking Reagan-Mondale kind of numbers.
It's not a temporary. You malfunctioned in front of 50 million people when all eyes were on you. This was your one chance to prove that this wasn't going to happen, and it did. So you can't say this is temporary. The reason most debates don't matter, and most debates don't matter. What have I been? I've been saying this to people going back to the midterms, right? Back to the last cycle. Debates are generally overblown and overrated. Unless they go like this. Like debates, Obama, Romney, one of them shits the bed in a debate. It doesn't matter. You basically know who both of them are. You basically know what they're about. So it's gamesmanship. Right. Oh, Obama didn't bring his game tonight.
Right.
All right, he'll lose a few points.
Yeah.
He'll make them back when
It's,
he beats him.
it's horse race shit for the pundits.
Right, exactly. That's what it is most of the time. I don't put too much stock in them. This was beyond the debate. This was a man demonstrating he could not do the job. That's what this was. And there is no way for him to reverse that impression.
This was McMurphy at the end of Cuckoo's Nest.
Right, yes, exactly, yes. Party elites will urge him to exit the race only if they determine that he is not viable and negatively impacting the House and Senate races. Not viable and negatively impacting the House and Senate races? That's weird. You would think that would be or, since you want to beat Trump, don't you? Said one big-time donor who is close to both Obama and Biden. See, that tells me that they think he's not going to win either way. Like if they're saying, well, as long as he doesn't drag the rest of the the Democrats down, we'll let him lose. Because don't forget, folks, the other thing you have to consider here, and this is a point I've made over and over again, Gavin Newsom has wanted to be president his entire adult life, I would wager. Like this is a guy who is like tailor-made to be a presidential candidate. He really wants it. You think Gavin Newsom wants to enter a race in this kind of shape and ruin his chance to be president? Because if he enters a race that's almost definitely lost anyway, that blows his shot. Right. So like it's you know, it's not something he necessarily wants to do. So it could be tough to twist his arm into doing it. Say, oh well, look, what Biden has a 0.7% chance of winning. I have a 3% chance of winning. You want me to enter this now rather than get to run my own thing on my own terms in 4 years? Like it's going to be hard to find someone willing to step up. That could be a big issue.
I hear Chris Christie's available.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get somebody who's like not expecting the call. Be all right, fuck it, I'll do it. According to a senior Democratic official, the party leadership would have
Eric Adams needs to pardon himself.
Hey, there you
pretty
go.
Soon.
I like that idea. Eric, that would be great. Now you talk about a funny race. Eric Adams versus Donald Trump. That would be amazing. According to a senior Democratic official, the party leadership would have much more control over choosing a replacement if Biden were to drop out after receiving the nomination than if he did so beforehand. Once a candidate is officially nominated, there is a process for the DNC members to choose a successor. Biden is the dominant force at the DNC, and his preference for a successor would surely carry sway. So what they're saying is we might wait until after the convention so that not even the delegates control it. Forget about the people. The people, that you're way bottom of the food chain. This is the party of democracy, folks. I have to keep insisting that because otherwise you will forget it. People, forget about them. Even the delegates, that's too much democracy. No, we want the DNC officials to just pick it.
Right. And with the super delegates, hey, those people are aristocrats. They don't necessarily have control over them. Among the super delegates, you're going to have your Bill Gates types. You're going to have your Al Frankens. Some of them like Kamala. Some of them like Gavin. They don't want all that mess.
Right.
Just wait until after the convention, handpick the successor.
Yep. The DNC does it completely in-house. Even the delegates won't have a say. You talk about the party of democracy. Not even the delegates. Forget about the people. They're going to box the delegates out according to this guy. Yep. Now, the downside of doing that is that it might be too late, right? It might be too late by that. That's too much fundraising money burnt. What an absolute epic shit show they
brought it on themselves. And so did every dumb fuck who ran around cheering on Biden's State of the Union as if because he didn't wet his pants, it was the St. Crispin's Day speech.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just a mess of their own making.
Please clap.